Lizzy Mathis. Welcome to my channel. I'm super excited today because today I am cooking in the kitchen, something that I do every single night and I really love doing it. But I'm excited to show you guys my greens recipe. And it's not just any greens recipe. It is a greens recipe that is full of kale and chard. You and your family will absolutely love it. And guess what? It takes no time, y'all. That is my magic word, no time. So enjoy, check it out. I am so excited because I am making the most simple recipe for greens that you'll probably ever find across the internet. I'm telling you, I'm breaking the internet, guys, with this one. Trust me. When I thought about greens, they would always be collard greens. So my mom would get the big leaves of collards and she'd dice them and chop them and put them in the pot, and she'd have a turkey bone and she'd cook these greens for hours, and it would just be the most delicious greens you ever had. But with that being said, I don't have time to be making greens like that all the time. So I have found a different way to make greens that my family absolutely loves, and I love to make them. And guys, just to be honest with you, it's super quick. Like, I can make greens in no time at all, any day of the week, and it's just a really simple recipe. So I hope you enjoy. So to get started, I've already chopped up my greens, and instead of collard greens, what I like to use is a mix of different kales and chards. So here I have my curly kale. This is where I have my dino kale, which is also dinosaur kale. And then here I have my red chard. And I've already chopped them up. And when you do it for the curly kale, you just want to kind of strip it off the core, and you just cut from there. With the dinosaur kale, what I've done is I've chopped, and if you see, I've left the core in the middle, the stem in the middle. And that's because there's tons of nutrients. It's not quite as dense as hard as the curly kale is, its core, or its stem, I should say. And so it's very edible and it's really great, and there's a ton of nutrients in there. And the same with the red chard. I've also left that stem as well, and that core as well. I also have my vegetable broth. I have some pepper. I have some mixed seasoning, which is basically just like garlic and a little bit of oregano, a little bit of parsley, a little bit of cumin, a little bit of everything up in there. I also have some granulated garlic, which is super easy to find as well. A little bit of sea salt, and my secret ingredient that I add to many of my dishes is a little bit of maple syrup. It just adds a little bit of sweetener to it, so it kind of cuts any bitterness that the greens might have had. And then, not forget, EVOO, which is extra virgin olive oil, which is a staple for me in most of my dishes. All right, so we're gonna get started. So I'm gonna head back over to the stove. I'm gonna start heating up my olive oil, and then we're gonna add the greens and the seasonings, and I'll show you how quick it is. I'm gonna add a few turns of olive oil. When I add the olive oil, I'm gonna get it really nice and hot, and then we're gonna add a little bit of sea salt on top of every batch that we add in. So we'll add a little bit of EVOO, then we'll add a little bit of greens, then we'll add a little bit of sea salt. So we'll mix that through until we've cooked down most of the greens. So let's start with our pieces that have a little bit of stem in them, because there'll be a little bit of the harder pieces to cook down. So we wanna put those at the bottom of the pot, since that's what we'll be cooking the longest. So I've added my dino kale. I'm gonna add a little bit of sea salt to the top of it. I'm gonna let that cook down just for about a minute in between adding another bunch. Now, in a recipe, if your family does like, which we love, onions and garlic and fresh peppers, those sort of things, you can also add that in first before you add your greens. But since it's a recipe for everybody, I didn't add the onions, but that's okay. We can add those next time. All right, I'm gonna take over my red chard. I'm gonna add that in. Okay, so I've added in my red chard. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit more sea salt, add a little bit more olive oil to the top before I add in my curly kale. Guys, the greens are cooking down so good. They look so good. They're my favorite. I love to add, like, if I'm in the mood, macaroni and cheese, chicken, a baked chicken with this. Also, salmon would go great with these greens. Veggies that you really love, whether that be roasted carrots, or we love roasted cauliflower at our house. We'll roast anything. Let me tell y'all, we will roast anything. Let me check to make sure that they're simmering down. All right, they're wilting down really nice. I'm gonna add my curly kale now. Once again, I added a little bit more turns of olive oil to the top. I've added a little bit more sea salt to the top. Be generous with the salt, but not too generous because you don't want to be eating salty greens. But yeah, it'll be nice because it'll cook in. All right, nice. So I've been cooking these on high the whole time, which is nice because it makes sure that the pot gets really nice and warm, so it's really good. I'm gonna add my broth in now so they don't get too stuck to the bottom, and so there's no charring of greens at the bottom. So after adding my veggie broth, I like to turn the heat from high down to about a medium, just so it's not smoking, and I'm gonna add in my other seasonings. So now we place the lid on top. We bring the fire down to like a medium low. We have our broth in there. We have our greens in there. We have our seasoning in there. We let it cook and just mash up and get all good all together, and then we will check on it in a couple minutes. But you want it to just kind of simmer down. You wanted the greens to wilt a little bit. You want to cook those little hard pieces of the stem down until they're a little bit softer, and then you have some really nice, yummy, easy to make greens. If you like a lot of pot liquor, which they used to call the juice of the greens, or they probably still do, at least we do. If you really like a lot of the pot liquor, then you can add a little bit more broth. And if you also like your greens to be a little bit more wilted, a little bit more soft, you can add a lot more broth. I usually just add about a cup or so because I like the mix of both. As you can tell, the greens have come down a lot from our big batch of greens, so also keep in mind that greens cook down a whole bunch. In my house, I come in with these huge bushels of greens, kale, all these wonderful things, and then literally it cooks down and it's gone in a day. So just keep that in mind. But they're looking really good. I give it maybe 5 more minutes and then we're good to go. All right, guys, so it looks like our greens are almost done. We're almost there. I cannot wait to show you how yummy they've turned out. And I cannot wait for you guys to try this recipe. So hold tight. Let's take a look and see how they turned out. Our greens are looking good. They're still vibrant in color, which I really love, which means that we didn't cook out all of the nutrients. So it's nice that the greens still have so much to give us in flavor and nutrients and all that. I'm gonna taste our greens. They're still a little hot. Can you see the smoke coming off of these? It's so good. It's like I teach my kids, you gotta blow before you eat. Guys, are you kidding me? By far, the easiest greens recipe you will find. So good, so flavorful. I love it. To kick it up a notch, you can always add a little bit of red pepper. If you're like me and my husband, you could always add a little bit of hot sauce. Let me know what you like, if you like them, if you try them, go try them now. Check it out, super simple. It took like, what, 4 or 5 ingredients? I'm Lizzy Mathis. Make sure to come back, comment, like, subscribe. Let me know all the things you wanna see. And check out this greens recipe and let me know if you love them as much as I do. Bye, guys.